Okay, so we're live, and I want to thank everybody for coming to um, second, the fourth board meeting of repealgunlaws.com, and I guess I'll go from left to right. Heck, Wark, how you doing?
I'm up first. Wow, I was not normally in the middle somewhere. I'm doing great. Thank you very much.
I've noticed that you're not always in the order you think you're in. I've noticed that when I'm in these things. And there's Stone Guy. Thanks, Stone Guy, for coming.
Hey, appreciate the invite. Yeah, appreciate everybody tuning in tonight.
And there's Warthog. He's Mr. T. And no, I'm sorry, not T. Warthog is Wart. And then T is Tom, is that right? And then me.
Yeah, that's right, Tom.
So anyway, Dano is trying to get rebooted, so I thought we'd get rid of some of the, the easy stuff while he's gone. But I do appreciate everybody coming. I know it's busy time this time of year, and it's cool having people here. But it's funny, over the past week, I just got really discouraged because it seemed like every time I turned around, people were saying, "Oh, that's not going to work. Nobody's going to help you. It's dumb to even try. No politician's going to help you." I mean, every time I turned around, it was just like blah blah blah. And I thought, what in the world? And it's true. If you go look, the very first thing I said when we started the website was, people have been conditioned to accept gun laws, and that's still my opinion. They really think that we can't change them.
And you've got to look at this, oh, now I'm drawing a Stone Guy blank here. Optimistically, there we go.
If you're not gonna approach this optimistically, you might as well just bail out now, because you're gonna be depressed and everything else. You're gonna meet so many dead ends. We're gonna contact 10 politicians, and they're all gonna say no, and it'll take 3 months to find one that'll help us, maybe longer. It's just one of those things, and but I don't know. I'm open for any advice.
Tony, this is Warthog here. This is one of the reasons I've joined. I do have a lot of background in approaching topics such as this, and it becomes real important to frame the argument as a right and an inalienable right. Depending on politicians is not what I would call the first place to start this effort. I would frame the argument through this group and this forum, and there's a lot of really intelligent people I've heard speak through these chats as to how to frame this debate and argument. There's two separate issues in my mind. There's the Second Amendment and an inalienable right, which by definition cannot be licensed, adjusted, or taken away. And for some reason, the public and everyone, just as you articulated, has forgotten about that aspect of the Second Amendment. And you'll notice in the Supreme Court, they're kind of timid to take on some of these issues because they know, I think, that they're going to have to eat their vegetables, for lack of a better term. There's also the federal government and the laws that we're talking about in terms of NFA and other items. That is where you might go to congressmen and senators and make that case. So you put up a poll the other day for a two-pronged, do you want to do it all? Do you want to do a piece of this? I would say both. I would approach it from a constitutional Supreme Court aspect, having a very targeted point to make to them, to be very narrow in scope so they cannot turn it down or ignore it the way some of the other cases have, because those cases have been based on not specific Second Amendment issues. There's really not been one that's made it. So I think, and I wrote you, I sent you an email containing some of that content, how I would frame that. And then there's going to the congressman with the repeal of the federal firearms laws. They're really, in my opinion and many others, do not have that power. there's actually something called the 10th Amendment. We don't talk about that very much, but the 10th Amendment says that they can make no laws regarding.
Well, let's try to stay focused. Let's try to. One thing I don't want to do is, we've got one, two, three, four, five, six people.
Certainly.
Let's try to keep one of the comments that G-Web's made was that we don't have a focus in this, and we have to do this incrementally, okay? This is only our 4th meeting. So we're trying to develop members, and we're trying to develop a focus. But we can't, like one or two of us can't decide what that focus is, and I'm trying very hard, and one of the reasons Dano's here is to try to help keep us in line with our notes and our minutes and our, I'm trying very hard to keep this where I don't say this is what I think we should do, and what we do need to develop a focus. But one thing I don't want to hear is that we're not going to be able to do something. I'm honestly not going to stand for that, because we can change the laws. They have been changed before, and they'll be changed again after we're dead and gone. And if we don't do it, other people may not even attempt to. So I don't want to start off with the premise that, and we're focusing on federal gun laws. We're not focusing on individual states' laws at this time.
Is my mic working?
It is now, thanks, Dano. So I think to stay focused, I think, Dano, didn't we have some? I have a little bit to report. If you want to guide us through the old.
Sure. The first thing I have is, do you want to go ahead and do a review of the results of the poll? Because we had extended it by 1 week.
Right.
That's directly addresses the issue of focus.
Right, and that's that. And to kind of answer your point there, Warthog, that's one reason we did the poll, was to try to take a large dip into the water, so to speak, and see what came out. And has everybody seen it? I mean, we've only had 55 votes, but right now the consensus is that we should divide our efforts among all of the above. But
Yeah.
the next number 2 is grow membership. And it went from there. Research gun laws, repeal a portion of the gun law. So, I mean, and maybe the poll itself isn't focused enough. That was just 5 or 6 things I came up with on the fly just to make a poll. Maybe what we need is to develop a focus for the poll itself. So, but it's a big task, and we just have to take it a step at a time.
Well, do we want to discuss the poll results? Like, as an example, what came in first was divide our efforts amongst all the above. And just my own personal feeling like that is that's diluting any possible results we may get down the road if we literally divide it amongst everything. But that's just my own 2 cents. I'd like to hear everybody else.
It is diluting, but at least when I voted, that was the one that, at least of the questions that made the most sense to me, because you kind of got to do a couple of these, first. You can't do anything without growing membership. That's one. It's really hard to get something accomplished if you got 100 members. If you had 200, it's a little bit easier, because then you can divide efforts among people that are willing to participate. We need to research the gun laws as well, to know which ones we should go after first. Some sound really easy, like suppressors. In the NFA, sound really like a logical choice, but there's a lot of gun laws out there. If we can get the momentum going in the right direction, I think that's the most important part.
What do you think, Stone Guy?
Well, I'm just kind of trying to figure, because this is I've seen some of the previous chats, and I mean, obviously, as the title insinuates, you're trying to repeal gun laws, so it's just going to be a matter of what venue you choose to go after. Whether it be the political, a political side. I don't know. There's a lot of variables that come into something like that. For me, on the political aspect, you gotta it's got to be palatable to the politicians and advantageous for them to address such topics. You know, their constituents have to be, all behind it and together and pressing the issue for them to take notice and to understand that this is an issue that could potentially get them voted out of office. Politicians are all about re-election. So, if you go at it in that aspect, I think that's where you need to start as far as the political side is making them understand that we are united as a gun community, and we want the laws changed. And if they're not going to change the laws, we'll vote someone else in that is like-minded and wants to work for the people.
Stone Guy, did you have an opportunity to take a look at the poll?
Nope, I did not.
Yeah, I put a link in the site because I would be interested in hearing your feedback on what you think should be our primary and secondary focus, as far as focusing our effort. Because that is kind of the whole point of the poll, is to try to help us create that focus.
I'm gonna stand behind whatever Tony decides because I like Tony, and so.
Well, I'm trying not to make this a Tony thing, but I'm trying to. What about Tom? Is it Tom, Mr. T there? Is that your name, Tom? Mr. T.
Yeah, it's Tom. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, what do you think about I know this may be your first time even hearing, and if it is, that's fine. But, we're trying to, it's a very difficult thing. So we're trying to develop a focus, Should we go after, a part of the law? Should we, I think what most people were getting at on dividing efforts, the way I took it was that mainly they're talking about growing membership and maybe focusing on one part of it, like silencers or whatever, something. Because if you take silencers, for example, there are precedents already set. Like I think Ohio just passed a law allowing people to use silencers for hunting purposes. So we may be able to build on the success of other people's efforts. So that's what I kind of took from the poll, was that we shouldn't just sit on our laurels that's not a good phrase, but I think we can do other things besides grow membership. You know what I mean? I think if we're active. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I voted on repeal part of the law because there are a lot of laws out there that cannot be legally enforced.
Right.
Such as you have to register a gun by a certain date. Well, to be able to register after that date, you have to admit you're breaking the law.
Well, and another good example of that is the arm brakes decisions, the arm opinions. How can they enforce whether you're going to use it as a stock or not, shoulder it or not? So something like that is a good target, I think. What about you, Warthog? What do you think about the poll? And
well, I voted for a piece at a time, and I think the NFA and the silencers or suppressors and the SBR are two low-hanging fruits. I think as far as getting public opinion behind you really have something there. I think there's a large irritation with the way that works. I have many aspects of this. I like what everyone said. I really do. I really think that what can you realistically do in today's environment? I sent to you if you could get the NRA to grade politicians based on their enforcement of federal firearm laws that are invalid, that wouldn't cost them 10 cents to do that. They always talk about money. There's just so many things we can do. I'm full of ideas and thoughts, and I'm here to support you guys and anyone I can help. I think there's a Stone Guy kind of touched on it. There's a legal avenue, and then there's a political avenue here. And they're very different. They take you to two different places, and they require different resources.
One costs more money than the other.
Yes. The Florida, our friend from Florida, Carrie, is a valuable resource. I think, the smart person learns from their mistakes. The really smart person learns from other people's mistakes, and there's a lot of them out there.
Right.
We really need to look into what has been problems for firearms, for repealing firearms laws, where it's hung up. I mean, a lot of politicians simply ignore. They don't take on the issue. They ignore it. They stonewall it. They just won't surface it. And the NRA, although they may not be the best route for us to take, could certainly lend us a hand if they would simply score politicians accordingly to whether they saw the NFA as an invalid, use of the, in violation of the Second Amendment. So something like that. Anyway.
The problem I see I respect the NRA. I'm actually, I'm a life member. I'm an instructor, all this stuff. But when it comes to trying to get, and they're such a huge organization, we're going to be like a chihuahua biting at their heels, So I think, just me, I think we're going to have to do work ourselves where if we had enough members, like here's an idea. We could have a working session one day where we have a hangout and we all call like the same congressman. We target a congressman and say, this is the guy we want to target for helping us. And we all call his office at the same time. Or we take turns. You go first, I go. Some practical things like that. I think practical activities like that are eventually going to get. And what I was going to say earlier is that us actually taking action, some kind of action, is going to grow. To me, is going to grow membership.
Let me say this: you got to be careful on how you use your first shot. The first contact with political should be very well captured and very well thought out, because it's real easy to run to a congressman and cry, "Hey, I don't like this. Help me." It's a different thing to have the right pressures in place, to have the right support to make your point heard. We've all seen congressmen just blow us off, and you'll get the email, you'll get the nice letter, and that's the last of it. So.
Right. Well, then we can have a working session on, here's our text for our call, and here's how we're going to do it. This is how we're going to sound, and this is the point I'm trying to make is our action, some kind of action is going to make a difference. Us talking about it is not going to make a difference.
Correct.
And so we have to do something in the construction industry. We say, let's do something even if it's wrong. My guys will be standing around looking at each other. Oh, what are we going to do next? I'm like, guys, just do something, even if it's wrong.
Well, I think of it sometimes as chess. This is a very complicated matter. And contacting the congressman is not hard. Having media covering that contact with the congressman, having the right people looking to their answer, putting pressure on them. Those are the things that become relevant to making the message resonate.
Right. Well, I think this is what we're talking about by dividing efforts. Maybe one of us here, you, Warthog, develops an angle of attack for who we contact and how we contact them. Maybe somebody else, maybe I work on trying to get the patches done. Maybe Dano works on something else. You see, and I think there's nothing wrong with dividing our efforts in that degree. You know what I mean?
Because that makes sense.
Everybody's going to have the skill sets, and it sounds like you might have a skill set that I don't have, which I'm willing to admit. But
well, this is a collaborative effort, and I'm clueless about contacts and a lot of things. But I'll lend what help I can. I've seen a lot of government in action, and it makes us all sad the way it works. But it's reality. That is how it works. Look at Bloomberg. The man comes in and drops a couple million on some folks, and they won't talk to us, the moms against whatever. But they're at the same time they're blasting a message filled with lies. It's an ugly game.
Well, there's M&K came in. I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Do you have what's your opinion on the poll? Did you see the poll?
Yeah, I did. I took part in it. I've been thinking about listening to you guys for a while now, and to me, it seems like the effort here is probably too focused, and by that I mean it seems like the country's divided down the middle with those that feel that we actually need someone to take care of us and to make our decisions for us. I think if you ask somebody that's way on the left, they'll admit that. They'll say, yes, we need someone to make sure that we're not eating bad vegetables, and we need somebody to make sure that we're not doing, one thing or another. There seems to be an awful lot of people that are getting fed up with the nanny state in general. I've read a little bit of Rules for Radicals. It's the handbook that the left used so well, in the last election. And I really think that if we could, through social media, find a way to appeal to the lady who, I just was reading a lady got a knock on her door, a cop was there, noticed her tailpipe was smoking because she had started her car to warm it up while she made her coffee. He says, there's a $16 ticket, pay it by Friday or it's $65. If you don't pay it, then it's $300. Now, when did the government, get to the point where they're telling us, how and when we can do everything?
Right.
If we could somehow get the message across to people who are fed up with that end of it and name it something, like the Tea Party or something, I think you'd have, the numbers would be staggering of the people that would then be with us.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's get specific. One thing I'm very impatient with is just talking about statistics and what I mean, all the stuff that we're all preaching to the choir. Really, we're preaching to each other.
But we're all gun lovers.
Yeah, we're all gun lovers. That's right.
But if we could bring into the fold the farmer that wants to run a roadside stand but he can't, or the small business owner who can't get started because of all the regulation, everybody that's being oppressed by this
right.
new form of government that's in everybody's face about everything.
But now I want to hear your ideas.
Pardon me?
We all agree on that. Now I want to hear some ideas. I don't mean to be mean, but we all agree that we're trying to develop a focus here, and we're trying to come up with. I'll be honest with you. I'm going to get really tired if we don't, take some sort of action to do something. You know what I mean? Even if it's little baby steps to keep me busy and my mind occupied while we're coming up with a bigger focus. I don't want to just get on here every Saturday night and talk. I ain't into that.
But do y'all think that it might be a good idea? Say we just had a last big election, and they used that they were gun right advocates. And this is what got them elected. Like, say, for my state, it was Tom Cotton. If we can get some of these senators and reps to back us, to give us a little clout, maybe, a little backup, do you think that might help?
Yeah, I think the last time we talked about trying to, I don't know, Dano, you may remember, we mentioned a few people that we thought would be good to talk to when they were sworn in January. Maybe approach. So, because we're going to have a sponsor for legislation, and so that's one thing on the list. We have PR, we have and I think this is what people meant by dividing our resources. We got to get the word out. And we got to contact. We got to get a sponsor for legislation. There's a list of things that we have to do, and I'd like to see us come up with an action plan after each meeting or during each meeting. And I'm not directing this at any one person here. I'm just saying I don't want this to turn into a bitch session every Saturday night. Let's develop a focus. Let's come up with some ideas and let's do something.
And the group name, is this gonna be repeal gun law? Are we gonna have, just like M and K said, We need some sort of a catch, a name.
Well, have you seen the website? It's repealgunlaws.com.
Right. Yeah.
Or RPG for short.
There you go. Okay. Okay.
RPG.
That's good.
Wouldn't it be RGL?
Oh, I know, but I like RPG.
I know.
RPGs
I don't know. The moms against RPGs would be after us then.
I know.
But yeah, I mean, we have a base.
How about Free People Against Tyranny, FAT?
That's a good one.
I don't think, honestly, guys, I don't think we need to have two identities. You know.
Just joking.
I know. I'm just trying to keep us, going down the right track. We'll be here all night if we don't get something going.
Sorry.
Here. No. I'm not. Guys, don't get me wrong. This is an internal frustration. I feel it's not a frustration with anybody else. It's an internal one because every day I wake up thinking, why do we accept this?
Tony, we need to come up with a way to work through the website to not just through the conversation of the chat, but to actually do the dialogue day in, day out throughout the week. And I don't know, there's ways to go about that, but to put the ideas out in front of everybody and start focusing, that's one of the key items, is to get the focus, avoid the rabbit holes, start identifying the right resources, start, trying to build the membership, start a list of congressmen, senators, gun rights groups. Who can we try to look to be an ally, and then come out of that with a plan.
Right. So do people want to do we want to take on pieces of that instead of one person trying to do it all?
I mean, think of something like knowing a congressman who might help. You might know in your own state, but that's something you really need insight into nationwide. It's really, and that's where I'm blind. I really don't.
I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago that I personally know Bob Corker. I worked with him. Oh gosh, this was 20 years ago. And so he usually will respond to if it's something kind of that he thinks he can respond to, he will respond to me, and I actually sent him an email and asked him to call me. But the problem is, he's a big business kind of guy. He's on the Foreign Relations Committee, and what I ask him to do is, if you can't help, just call me or send me an email. Send me someone that you think would help us, in the coming year. So even if we don't know somebody who we think would actually sponsor, if we know somebody like that, we should go and contact them.
I have a quick question. Have we moved on from reviewing the poll results?
I think we have. We didn't come up with any sort of action.
Right, and that's what I'm wondering.
Yeah. I think we were trying to get to this point to where we were developing a list of what we want to do based on the poll. Like, we'll develop a top 3 action list, develop a list of politicians or whatever. I still think we need to do PR, so I think the patches are something that we need to work on. I don't mind working on that. We need to keep, if we can get some things out in front of people. One of the things that drives me nuts on Facebook are these little memes, but at least they get the word out to people. If we had a little meme that we used that was like an icon or something that we all just took and posted on our Facebook page, that would kind of, what I mean? That's another idea. It's a practical thing that we can do.
Well, just speaking for myself, and I'm getting back to the poll. I think growing the membership is not only an initial, but going to be an ongoing goal that will never stop.
Yes,
right.
That is very true.
It's just a matter of if we all agree on that, what are the other ones, at least at the start, that we want to tackle, and then, like you said, Tony, then trying to again focus even more in the minutia of who do we go to with this item, and that's the who.
I think that should be our number one focus, and that's developing a list of people to contact. politicians.
Yeah.
I think-
Yeah, without a list of people to contact you, you can't really target any laws. to go
Well,
after.
Yeah.
And there's the contact who that we know is receptive to our cause through people like Tony's personal contact with Bob Corker. I mean, there's contacting someone who you might waste your time and energy with versus somebody who's more receptive, and that's the honing of the process.
Yeah.
Right, and we have to eliminate those, though, by a process of elimination. We have to go ahead and make that call and say,
Agreed.
yeah, this guy's not going to help us, but I want to hear them tell me that they're not going to help us, And
Maybe we should have our own rating, like the NRA's rating. We'll give A, B, C's, D's, and E's.
exactly. And when we have 1,000 members, maybe somebody will listen and we'll look at it. Which I think is very achievable. But,
That's something that I wonder if we want to make. I'm going to propose that a possible action item for our next discussion is that those of us that are here and willing do some research, whether it's using the websites like NRA's grading system, or you happen to know the people in your state, or you know somebody that knows somebody, sort of a thing. And that we bring that to our next meeting so we can actually get closer to the names, and then once you get the names, we get that down to, okay, here's 2 or 3 guys that we can maybe contact.
You know what we could do? We could all bring our top 5, and we could compare, and we keep them secret until Saturday night. And then we would-
Well, I think, to me, more important than finding a list of politicians to I don't want to say pitch this to, because that lessens the effect. That's kind of a negative connotation. But we need to have not just a mission statement, but we need to have some real validity behind our words, some good facts, something that's going to really pull at the heartstrings, for lack of a better term, of the people in power that could really initiate some sort of change and repeal these gun laws. It's one thing to just go to someone and say, we want to change something, but if you don't have some
I've actually thought about that, Stone Guy, and I think we have to keep it simple. Because we all have different abilities and knowledge. I think if we just keep it simple and say we're dealing with freedom here or whatever, we don't get caught up in the minutia of why the SBR law is the way it is, or why we have to have a tax stamp for silencers, or what I mean. We in the gun community, the gun culture, tend to get caught up in the minutia. What sight are we going to put on this gun? Blah blah blah. It's a gun. We want our freedom. I just.
Well, you're right. I mean, ultimately this needs to flow from law. The Second Amendment is a right. It's not a law. It's a right, and we're talking about somebody has in these federal firearms laws chosen to regulate a right. Imagine if this was free speech. Imagine if this was freedom of the press or any other right. I mean, no one would stand for it. I mean, could you imagine the outcry? And a gentleman earlier made a point about the ladies' exhaust and the insanity that we live under today, where people can micromanage our lives. And now we're seeing the first right being micromanaged, and that's the Second Amendment. It's arms. It's not even firearms. It's the right to bear arms. I mean, we have gotten so far away from the Constitution and the Bill of Rights by letting these politicians wander off with our rights. And it's going to get worse. And I think the public outcry could really come from, it's not just the Second Amendment that's under attack, boys and girls.
That's right. The freedom of speech is being attacked a lot. I mean,
Right.
there's so many.
You're right. There's an all-out assault. It's at different stages. It's at different levels, but it's happening.
And that's what I would like to hear, the mission statement. I'd like to hear more about the mission statement. I'm not sure that
Well-
everybody understands that. I don't.
Well, that's what we're going to try to develop, the action items which would eventually lead to such a thing. And we can't take on the entire Bill of Rights per se, but I think it is at the core of our argument. I mean, it's at the core. And it, you know, like you said, if you're going to talk about whether you should have a tax stamp or not, that's a losing argument unless you've got the right politicians and the right context to say that law was passed under false pretenses. There was a sleeping public that is awake now, and we're no longer going to allow that mistake to stand. That is kind of the argument for that. But I think the larger argument is the inalienable right cannot be modified, and that's it in a nutshell.
It doesn't say mission statement, but we have a goal, and it's listed on our website. It's simple: the repeal of gun laws. And I think if we get caught up, we're going to get caught up in our own minutia. You know what I mean? We really are. And I see it. I can see it. You know, coming.
Flowery words have never impressed me.
You know,
what has impressed me is the simplicity of things.
We should use a liberal tactic, and that's just to remain vague as hell and just go and do what we want to do and not worry about the minutia. You know what I mean?
Oh, I agree.
You know, it's repeal the NFA. What's so hard about it? I mean, I know I'm being flagrant, okay, but I'm just saying, so we pick silencers, whatever. You know what I mean? Let's not get caught up. You know, I don't think we have to explain ourselves too much. You know, when you start off in a defensive mode like that, you're in a defensive mode. You place yourself in a defensive mode.
That's right. That's why the other side does is they be very vague. They'll never come out and say that they want the entire nation walking in lockstep with everybody owning exactly the same amount of things. They'll never come out and say that.
And they don't say they believe in killing babies. They say they believe in women's rights.
That's right. And they find nice words like freedom. You know, freedom appeals to everyone. Whether it's
sensible as defined by them.
Right. So, I don't know. I think we'll learn as we go. You know, I think we have to keep it sort of not vague, but I think we have to keep the goal simple, and that is to you know, what would a free person be able to do?
But you're only interested in appealing to people who are into guns. You want that obvious right from the get-go that anybody who is interested in joining this movement or effort is pretty much gun owners.
Well, I think anybody who's interested in freedom will find it appealing, because at some point, you know, they're going to come after something that person that likes. It might not be guns next time, you know. And I think that's why we have to stay focused on the idea that what we were talking about earlier. It is the Second Amendment. That's a specific thing, but freedom of speech is being attacked. You know,
we should make a simple statement. You can make a one-liner: uniformity of rights throughout the nation. No different treatment of rights.
I'm sure that the woman would describe her ticket as, you know, I have a right to do what I want on my property. So, you know, even though you're not talking about that specifically, I'm just saying that I think that you could, if you divided the people in the country just on the philosophical bent of an individual, I think that we could get the country back. It's the philosophy of it's socialism is what it is, and that's the direction we're moving. But I know, you know, I also think it might be a better idea to just issue, you know, even if you just got gun owners. I think that the amount of gun owners in the country are, majority of us are too quiet, you know.
Right.
And I think that if you just could get the gun owners.
You know, an interesting thing about gun owners is it's not a red or blue issue as much as other topics are. It's been co-opted by a party, probably for money more than another, but it's really, if you look at the PBS poll that happened recently, it really kind of shocked them, because the audience, 90% said enough laws, you know, and it's a message that I think we would find support regardless of political affiliation, strong support. And it's a rights issue once again, and we've got to avoid making it a political argument as much as we can, and make it a fact. Here's the fact on the table, short, sweet, to the point, defined, so there's no wiggle room, and it doesn't turn into an emotional, wrestling match, which is what we generally end up in, and that's the wrong way to do this.
Right, because if you try to make it too focused, say our thing, say we all love CCW, and we made that our focus, but you're going to lose those people, those Democrats who just want to have a shotgun at home, to protect their property. You know what I mean? So it needs to be. We need to have a focus on firearms, but we need to keep it open. We don't want to have it so focused, laser focused, one category.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like you said, you don't want to get caught up in the details, but you still have to have, presence of mind and be able to defend your position when people ask, and this is just a devil's advocate statement that I preface, that, when people say, as America, we enjoy the most freedom with guns of any country, except for a few states. The
only thing I'm going to say is that we have to be careful that we don't allow the other side to take away. I'll go ahead and put myself in this category. I don't know everything about. I know I've read the NFA, but I couldn't quote the whole thing. I don't know. The gun safety. There's a lot of things I don't know about the law, but I'm not going to argue the law with anybody. You know what I mean? I'm just going to say, and we don't want to have just 2 or 3 people in an organization that can argue every letter of the law. We want 1,000 people that can say we don't want gun laws. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that's where it comes down to, because if you start getting caught up in the details, people say, well, you can own guns. We can own full auto guns. There's just certain restrictions to a degree that some states have. There are. We're talking about the federal.
No, I say those people deregulated. If you're saying to me, and I got this argument 3 times this past week. Well, nobody says you can't own a silencer. Well, nobody says you can't own an SBR. Well, nobody. And I was like, really? Have you ever been through this paperwork before? A 5320?
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing.
Have you ever had to go to your sheriff and ask for permission to have an SBR and wait 10 months? That's basically, out of a nutshell, it's not a ban, but it's infringing on your right to own that. And that's why, if we get caught up in that argument, we're probably going to lose.
How can you tax a right? How can you tax a right? Imagine if you got taxed to go vote.
That's a kind of a weak argument, because there's lots of so-called rights that are subject to restrictions and not necessarily taxes, but fees.
I think one of the reasons why I keep trying to keep focused on coming from the side of having the advantage, and that is, if you have the advantage in a fight, you don't explain to the other person what you're going to do to them, right? You just do it. And I think that's what we should do here. We don't have to explain ourselves. We just do it, okay? We just go find a person to help us. We go find members. We get a sponsor. We introduce legislation, and we don't have to explain to anybody why we're doing that. We're going to have a majority in the House and the Senate, and I would feel good even if we had something passed in the House and in the Senate, and Obama, vetoed it. At least, we raised awareness.
Well, not to diminish anything, like what we're doing on our level, like, with your organization, and like with Every Second Matters, and different, grassroots organizations that are, that each of us participate in at a grassroots level in different states and different areas. But do you think, or maybe don't you think, that someone like the NRA or ILA a bigger organization with much more political influence, are they not trying to do the same things?
No, I don't think so. I honestly think that
No, they're not.
at a certain point in time, organizations become so established that they cruise at a certain level of where they do a certain amount, they do just enough to keep their membership up, but they don't. Let me ask you this: what would happen to the NRA if all the gun laws were abolished? What would there even be a need? You know what I mean? So I think that's self-preservation to a certain extent, and I think that's why it ain't going to do any good to.
Well, that's a good point, and that's the reason I asked, is because you're going to have the naysayers out there that look at us, and I just use us as a relative term, but that look at organizations like us, small grassroots, that say, oh, they're never going to get anything done. They're a bunch of guys on YouTube sitting around wishing and hoping. But when you talk about a big organization like the NRA,
well, let me ask you, how long has the NRA been in existence? Why haven't they gotten gun laws repealed? Why haven't they done something as simple as getting silencers deregulated where everyone could shoot without having ear protection?
Yeah, exactly.
Why is that so hard? Okay.
Well, the NRA never fought the NFA to begin with.
No, I'm just saying. I'm asking you, what have they done? What laws have they gotten repealed?
They haven't. They're going back to this time 2 years ago, they started the fear mongering to grow membership.
Yeah.
That was their goal, was to grow membership. And that's the thing. They weren't, they were trying to prevent laws from passing, but they weren't trying to overturn it.
You need to look at the board of directors every year, and you need to know who they are and vote for the right ones and start steering that to an offensive organization. They are primarily defensive. However, I will say they are good about attaching themselves to other people's efforts if they're formulated correctly. You'll see them in states fighting for people, but you won't see them originating much, and that's where I think most of our aggravation is. They tend to sit back and watch and wait, and when it looks good to them, they'll get involved, and that's how they operate.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like if you were the company making arm braces, why would you have an interest in repealing the SBR laws? You're not. So you're going to meet resistance even inside the gun community, culture, whatever we're calling it now. So I'm still calling it the gun community based on my videos, so based on my chart.
That's the kind of splintering that I'm trying to figure out how you can step around it.
What splintering?
Just all the division, even within the gun owners community. Community culture, all of that. It's I hate to harp on it, but I really think that this is a matter of philosophy. And I wonder if you could get 10,000 members who simply had a simple philosophy of the American person who has freedom, how far-fetched it would be to actually find someone to run as a candidate with that view. And somehow avoid the hitting on the brakes that comes when the typical conservative finds out that the libertarians want to legalize drugs, and that's so much for them, and then the interest is dropped.
Right.
It's specific issues are dividing people, but where you find continuity is in the philosophy, and the philosophy of the left is the one that's dominant now. I just wonder, through social media, if you could get a buzzword like nanny government or something like that. Everybody knows what it means. The nanny government is affecting hundreds of thousands of people in this country, and they're all against it for different reasons. But if you could get someone who just basically wanted to overturn the nanny government, I think the membership would just go through the roof. But while that was happening, people would slowly divide on issues, If you could avoid that somehow.
Let me ask Warthog, I don't mean to get off the subject too much, but it goes to the website. You mentioned earlier that you felt like that the website was not kind of meeting the needs of communication.
I think of a whiteboard like thing where we can put throw ideas out there, not to publish content to the public, but to work amongst ourselves to try to capture these, our topics and turn them into, talking points, eventually into action items, and then develop a mission statement and get that focused message to take forward. So I'm something internal amongst ourselves where we can chat, bounce ideas off, and start, I don't know, peeling the onion, if you will, to get this boiled down to a focused.
Almost like a chat, a way to chat directly in there that's only accessible to members.
Correct.
Because I could set the permissions on the stuff. I was just leaving it pretty much public so that people could see what we're doing, and hopefully it would attract more people. I don't want it to be like feel exclusive,
Well, I don't think we're trying to be exclusive. I think we're just trying to have a way to take the board, if you will, and work amongst ourselves to get the starting point. I mean, we're not being reclusive in any way, I don't think. And, maybe publish it once we get our head together. But
I'll work on that then. I'll see.
I'd like to throw my 2 cents kind of in on that is I think and I'm not sure what the solution is, but one thing that we might be missing is a way to communicate our questions that, let's say, Tony, if I have a question of you that not necessarily everyone in the world sees, and also so that you don't, let's say I don't write it well and you don't really understand what I mean, you don't take it some way I did not intend.
Like that just happened between you and I, didn't it, Dana?
I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. but
Dana and I became better friends this past week. Let's just put it that way.
We worked it on, I think.
But I think, there's a way to send messages to each other on the website, but I don't know if that's good enough, or I think
more of a button board forum.
Yeah. Well, I can put a forum on the website. I've had forums on my websites before and nobody used them. So if you all think that it would get used, I'll put one on there. Maybe we just limit it so that we don't have like 20 categories. Sometimes I get lost in the forums because it seems like,
To boil it down is how can we work between Saturdays?
And that's my frustration. I feel like that was part of the. I'm the kind of guy that likes to do something while I'm waiting, on the next meeting. And so, I'm the same way. And I would like a way to be able to bounce that off. So let me just go ahead and put a form up, and I'll try to keep it simple where we just have maybe one category. We don't have 20 different, categories or whatever. Or, maybe we eventually get into that. But maybe we just have one for now that says, we just call it, focus or whatever it is, and we all post under that one thing.
Yeah.
So that we can all stay together and we don't get divided into 3 or 4 different groups.
General purpose or general topic, whatever, just general.
Yeah. And those applications are free for the website. I don't have to pay for those.
And speaking of doing things, Tony, I just want to mention for those out there that last week Tony did send out the reminder email to the members that about the poll. So although we have a little over 50 responses, at least we did as of about an hour and a half ago, we get about half the people that are members actually responded to the poll. So take that for however you want to interpret it.
Do we want to? I can change the poll. Do we want to change its focus? Now that it's run for this long, has it run its life? Do we want to change the questions? Or do we want to just leave it and then work on our, go to the forum as a working measure?
Well, you had a lot of people that you seem to talk to that were naysayers. I don't know how much public input more we need on that question. I think a fun question is to go a legal or political route, A or B. I don't know. I don't think we at this point we need to get a lot more input. We need to get options as to how to execute, and maybe then we can do polls that are more meaningful.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why, kind of in the side chat, I was talking with Quirk a little bit earlier about possibly getting the guy, one of the guys from Florida, Kerry, to maybe it doesn't have to necessarily be a Saturday chat, but maybe have what I'll call a group working, learning chat where he can kind of tell us things that he might suggest, pitfalls to avoid in creating this, since we're at the very infantile stages of its development.
I would love that. I think that's an excellent idea. There is somebody who's knee deep in the. I mean, he's out there on the cutting edge, and he could save us. You know, he's that the really smart person learns from the mistakes of others, and he knows what those are. And I would welcome him. He would be. I mean, I don't see how we could do it without people like him, quite honestly.
Yeah, I only mention that because that's.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was gonna say
Sean.
Sean, and then Eric is the lawyer. Getting those two involved in repeal gun laws, or two people very.
I want them to know though that we're going to be the bulldogs. We're not going to be the chihuahuas. You know,
Yep, right.
if I hear from some guy who says, "Oh, we need a 10-year plan to," hell no, y'all can go off on your 10-year plan if you want to.
Well,
My plan is to do something next year.
Yeah, well, you got to remember, Florida carries on the front lines battling every day by putting lawsuits out, etc. They
Like
are the
any
ones that are
consultant.
taking proactive steps.
Like any consultant, we don't have to take any of their suggestions. It's just that that we're asking them, since they've been where we're at before. We're asking, can we tag off of some of your experience to hopefully reduce the amount of the initial mistakes?
Maybe, and what I would like to see us do is give somebody a little bit of a boost and say, okay, so this guy, he's real smart, he's an attorney or whatever, and you know what I mean? They're entrenched too, to a certain extent. They're entrenched in their activities. And if you put yourselves on the coattails of somebody who's entrenched like that, you may find yourself being dragged along. And I don't want to get. I would love to hear what he has to say, and I would love to have advice. But if it's going to be.
No, I would not do that. You're right about that. I would not use them as a cog in the machine. I would use them as a map for us to look at as we drive down the road.
That's good. That's a good analogy. I like that. So,
Yes.
yeah. I think as long as we keep that kind of focus,
Exactly. They are not going to be driving this organization. We would simply be looking for them as a roadmap to avoid known pitholes, or known potholes, excuse me.
Who knows? They might get excited and join us.
Exactly. But, I mean, I view it as the worst that'll happen is that we'll waste an hour or so. That's the worst thing that'll happen.
Right.
And I got an hour to waste that might.
So who can contact that person?
Well, let's be strategic about it. When would we be ready to contact them? I mean, there are so many things and so many directions to go right now. I mean, that focus, that I think the previous board meeting item is really, really relevant. I mean, we have to get ourselves focused. And we're going to have to just use the limited people we have to take down those items one at a time in a checklist, just like building a car. We're going to have to do it until we got a rolling, vehicle, and then we'll let Stone Guy drive it around.
The Warthog. I mean, what's the War Pig or whatever Hoss has? We'll drive that around.
Yeah.
But so. What can we do? What can I do? Y'all are going to have to keep me busy because I'm not going to be satisfied with waiting. I mean, I know it's a small issue, but I'm really excited about. Well, we've raised $65. If we get to the point to where we actually fund the patches, and we're happy with the patches, I'll go ahead and just order them. Because I think one of the things that's going to be kind of cool is if we can actually make contact with people in a physical way. I can mail out a bunch of patches with a little letter that we all agree on. Sounds kind of cool. And maybe we send one to Eric, IV88, Eric, and maybe we send them to some of the bigger YouTubers and politicians or whatever it is. It's something physical that they can, put on their hat, and it's a reminder every time they see it. They go, "Oh, there's repealgunlaws.com. Maybe I need to call those guys or something, or come to a meeting or whatever it is." I don't know. Y'all help me out here.
Well, you're right, and that's why we need a list. That's why we need the whiteboard. That's why we need to capture this stuff, and know the difference between marketing effort and contacting Sean and contacting the politician or building membership or how we frame our arguments. I mean, this is very, very large right now, and we need to get it focused. And
the one thing I have, because I have been on some nonprofit boards, okay. And it's nice if we have some sort of action item, something to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had something to do that kept me busy. I fixed the poll, and it was little stuff, but I felt like I was doing something. I feel like I need to be doing something. So I'm personally going to come up with something I'm going to try to do this week. And I got to get the poll. I got to get the forum software on the website. That's one thing I got to do. Now that it seems like that is a consensus. The consensus is that we need something like that, and so that's my action item. And I would like to think that I might hear from Bob Corker. I don't know when do they go back in session. They're still out for the holidays, right?
Isn't that right around January 20th or so?
Second or third week, yeah.
So I may not even hear from him until, even though he actually lives in my city. I've seen him a couple of times around. He only lives a mile from me, so sometimes I'll see him. And but anyway,
Quirk. Are you still there?
Yes, sir, I am.
What about, would you be willing to contact Thin Blue Line, because he has spoken to, not Eric, but the other guy.
Sean.
Via the phone before, and so I know he's, I've talked to him in online chats and so forth, but not as much as Tino has.
Right.
I
was going to say, I sent Sean out an email just letting him know about repealgunlaws.com and check it out and let me know what you think, etc. But I didn't go into a whole lot of detail. I don't want to push it too far. I just want him to be aware of it right now.
Okay. Do we want to have Tino contact him in regards to would he be willing to come on a Saturday night and give us a 1 hour in-house avoid the pitfalls of starting a new organization tutorial?
I can ask him. I can ask Tino to ask him that. No problems. It's just Tino right now is busy. So.
Oh yeah, I don't mean right this instant.
No, he said he'd be busy until after the first of the year.
Well, I would also be open to at his convenience. I mean,
right.
I would not lock him down to this meeting's time slot. I would be willing to take what you can get.
Yeah.
Pick a night and go with him. He's awfully busy.
And again, having a place to communicate, because it is true that when we post things on the website, they scroll down, so we don't have that accumulative thought process on the website going. That was good feedback, because I was a little frustrated with that myself. It's almost a little bit too much like Facebook, really.
Well, another thought, Tony, is maybe you and I, if you want to develop that tool, if you will, and I have some, maybe work with you on the phone or something offline to capture some of these things we need to build focus around and format it. I'll be glad to get with you on that.
Okay.
I'm actually off for a week right now, so I have some time to here and there between hauling kids to do some stuff.
That sounds cool. I don't. Does anybody else? One thing I am going to do. It's funny because I think the forum is going to come in handy now that I think about it, because I have all these notes that I had, and I cleaned up my office for Christmas, and now I can't. I mean, I found these notes I made for tonight, but I can't find we actually had a list of new. Remember, we had a list of new politicians coming in. So having some resources like that to be able to have them placed in one spot will be kind of cool, even if it's just links in the forum. So, because we're all busy and we can't. It's not like we can all keep a notebook on repealgunlaws.com. A journal. So.
No, but a library is nice. A working library of where to pass this on to somebody else that can take it. You mentioned a very relevant point. This could be generational almost in the efforts. I mean, think about how long ago these laws were written, and we're just now becoming aware to the point to take action. I mean, things happen in decades now, not in days.
Right. But to me, we have, this last election was even bigger than 2010 as far as, to me, it seems like it was as far as the mandate. And I think we ought to capitalize on that. It's almost like there's a paradigm shift getting ready to happen. And maybe it just takes a few little bulldogs like us to get it, to help. I know the butterfly effect thing is kind of weird sounding, but I really don't think we can go wrong with putting effort into it.
Well, think about the frustration. We watch day in and day out the arguments to take more of our rights away from us. The gentleman mentioned it earlier, our freedoms. We just want to do, a hard day's work and be able to enjoy our lives as responsible, law-abiding citizens. And they keep turning the screw down, and we want to loosen that screw. And that argument does not exist in Congress on behalf of us. It seems like Congress gets elected and tries to determine what new laws they need to pass, not what laws they need to remove. And that's, I think, would be a paradigm shift in our political process.
Yeah, and when you have a party that thinks the executive order is not to direct departments but to make laws, the executive order, it's amazing what it was originally created for. It has nothing to do with what it was originally intended. It was originally intended to just direct the branches of government that were under his control. It wasn't to create laws on the fly. And that's what basically the ATF is doing with their little opinion letters. They're creating little laws as they go along.
They're taking the English language and redefining it, okay?
Right.
That is where our problem truly lies, in the redefining of terms and meanings to suit the needs of the moment. Yeah. And it's killing us.
Yeah, and before I forget my thought, my point there was that we gave them the foundation. The NFA gives them the foundation to create. If they didn't have the NFA, they wouldn't be able to write their little opinion letters. So.
Tony, I have a question on 2 items from last week.
Okay.
And I just want to verify: are we going to table the discussion on future ad revenue as well as future FAQs and terminology pages?
No, we just
at least for now. At least for now. Well, I just don't want too much out there. We're all confused with too much going on.
Yeah, I think I'm going to leave. I'll just leave up the opportunities for people to sponsor on there, and hopefully the more people that see our website, I think if we had 1,000 members, we would more than likely be able to attract someone who would sponsor place an ad there. G-Web's just kind of getting the complimentary ad because I want people to see what an ad could look like, and how it would link and all that. So I'd like to replace that eventually with something like Cabela's or
And on the terminology page, we're gonna. I mean, unless we start getting feedback from people that are asking for it, I don't want to put effort into creating a terminology and FAQ section unless users are actually wanting it.
I think, and I agree. I think we should get our forum going and get our focus and get that.
Right.
That's probably where we should spend
Right.
it. I think that's what we're all saying, isn't it?
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that, because people heard some of the stuff last week, and I want to make sure that they hear, okay, what happened to it? Well, we decided to table the issue. Doesn't mean that it's never going to happen. It's just right now we're going to table it.
Yeah. Dan, I just want to butt in 1 second here with the possibility, at least for a link on the main page to, like Amazon. I know Florida Carry does it where, 5% of the sale, if you use that link, goes back to Florida Carry. I don't know if that's something that Tony can set up.
Well, one thing I just realized is that I forgot about my affiliate programs. Like I have a Lucky Gunner affiliate. I'm glad you mentioned that because I had it on learntoshootsafe.com and that URL got stolen from me. So I haven't. But the reason I mention that is because there are companies that will allow you to become affiliated with them, and and you get a percentage of their sales. But it's very small, and the better target is to try to get someone to sponsor you for $10 or $20 a month, or you know what I mean? Because unless we have 1,000 people coming to the website every day, the affiliate type links they don't even pay as much as YouTube does. So, well, Stone Guy, you hit it out. Oh, shoot.
You left. Yep.
Oh, well, I meant to say thanks for coming. I guess I talked too much. But
yeah, I know that. I just know the Amazon affiliate pay is 5%. So.
Well, we'll have to look into that. Let me make a note. 5% is a pretty good chunk, actually.
Yep. Somebody buys $100,
Now, do you have to have a store, an Amazon marketplace?
I am not sure about how that works with the affiliates. I never looked into it, but.
Well, it's funny because instead of doing auctions like we're doing an auction right now, we probably shouldn't forget to mention that. We've got GQ Prepper donated the survival kit, and it is up to $105, and he's going to donate the profits to us.
Is the link for that on repeal.com, gunlaws.com?
It's in the menu bar. It says GQ Survival Kit Auction at the top.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I see.
It's not that obvious, I agree. And the patch ideas, I moved to there too, so people can click on that.
Oh, speaking of patches, I got a comment on that too. That's old business, but I still like the main one you did, the first one. I think it makes a really nice patch.
I do too. I was just trying not to be too biased about it.
Well, that's my opinion. I like that one, and I like the third one as a sticker idea.
And we do need to address old business before we really go to new business, which I know we kind of did. But
I agree with Cork. I think that one GQ Prepper would make a great sticker because it does, those things that tend to have fine detail to them, like what he's got on there, tend to be better stickers than patches.
Yeah. And I like the middle one. It's just a little too confusing.
Yeah.
What
I was going to do is I was going to leave those up there until we raised enough money to make the order, and then I thought we'd make the final decision. Like I said, we've got $65 in that little account now, the Indiegogo account.
And you can find a link to donate to that right on the main page of repealgunlaws.com.
That's right. It says support patch project at Indiegogo. That's what that is.
Yeah, the one thing that was brought up after I posted that over at Gun Channels too, I brought up the, the 3 patches for 20. It's like, a lot of people are like, maybe you should make that 4 patches. This is just a comment that was brought up.
Well, the thing is, the whole point is that those people are helping you raise money. You don't want to make the perks so much that you give away your ability. In other words, when we actually get the patches, then we can either give them away or sell them for $5 a piece or whatever it is, a lot more than what it costs to make them. So it's a fundraiser in itself. So the whole idea is to give a perk, but it's not to necessarily give them all that great a value. You know what I mean?
Right. No, that's exactly what I was thinking too. The $5 $5 donation
We're asking for
allows us
people
to.
to support us. We're not asking for people to buy stuff on that.
Correct.
But I can change that if everybody says I should change it. I can change it.
I'm in 100% agreement with you on that one.
Tony, there was a point made last week about being able to donate 1 year at a time and not do $1 per month and lose the overhead of that 30-cent transaction fee or whatever.
Yep.
Were you able to look at that? I mean, I would just give a lump sum as I would to play the $1 a month. And
it's funny because the real estate's getting kind of crowded. If you go to maybe I need to move it up the page. If you look on the home page, scroll down just a little bit. There's a donate button there. And the other thing too is you can do that on the Indiegogo, and you'll actually get a patch. In other words, on the Indiegogo, there's a place to sign up for a perk, but there's also a place just to support the project and donate an X amount of dollars.
So Tony, you had mentioned last week the donation bottom that you were possibly going to bring it up. Is that why you decided to leave it at the bottom?
I didn't decide. It's just that we got to decide what we think. Do I need to move it up to the very top? And that's fine. I can do that.
Well, I mean that may not have been. I just thought because I'm looking at the document that I have from last week. And that was one of the items that was possibly going to take place. But I thought maybe because you said it was getting too busy at the top, you decided just to leave it at the bottom, which is fine.
No, what I did was I changed the color and I did move some stuff around, hoping that more people would notice it. But I'm going right now.
I mean, it doesn't matter to me whether you put it up top.
Well, I'm going to move it, and y'all can look at it and see what you think. Because it's that simple. I can just go into the module manager and move its order so it goes up to the top. And so just takes a second. Then you can look, and you can vote on it. Let's see. But y'all got to talk while I'm doing it.
Tick tock, tick tock.
No dead air. No, pretend it's radio.
No dead air.
Okay, so custom. I was just kind of thinking the Patreon thing might be a priority, but we can decide.
Yeah.
Now let's hit the refresh button. The other thing I need to do is make them all the same size. I didn't realize that module position was so wide. You see how much wider the the donation?
Yeah, it's taking up a lot of real estate. Yeah.
So I can either try to figure out how to make that smaller. Let's see if it'll let me.
Yeah, its height is not too bad. I mean, it is definitely wasting some width.
Just a little.
It doesn't let me change it. I'll have to see. This content management system allows you to do a certain number of things, but if you have to know the CSS, that's something where you got to know a little program with code.
It's script code.
Yeah. But here's the thing. I'll look into it. It's probably something I can just ask the people who make that donate button where the code actually is. I've done it before, and I'll share the code with you.
All right. For now, I'm going to go ahead and list that item as complete.
Thank you. And so
this wouldn't be possible without your makeshift web programming. Thank you.
It is makeshift, that's for sure. I've been using Joomla. It's a content management system for 10 years, but I never have taken a class or anything. So
it looks good. I mean, I like it.
I have to be retrained every day. It seems like. But okay, so Dano, is that the old business?
Yep, old business is complete. I know
so if you want to, I'm gonna, between now and next Saturday, I'm gonna go ahead and load a forum, and I need to. I've got enough room up there for forum. Yeah, I've got enough room. I guess, do we want the forum to be on the end of the menu or the first thing you see, or
Well,
I guess it doesn't really matter as long as we know where it is.
well, those of us that are here tonight will know that it's there, but it's the other 90 members that I'm concerned about them finding it.
I'll
Can you send a message to all?
Yeah, I'll send a message to everybody. It's funny because there's like 4 people out of 103 who put the wrong email address in, and I get messages every time. But that's just a maintenance thing. Excuse me. So I'll put it on the menu, and then I'll send out a message. Let me write that down. Send a message. And this is a form.
Sorry, I was looking at the patches again. But I do like the way I like the donate but up at top, because donate, say $12.
Yeah, because I guess a lot of people don't even realize what Patreon is. It's relatively new, so I don't like that either. I know when I joined Gun Channels, I just paid for a whole year at a time. So,
But it's nice to have options for new members, because if for some reason they're saying, well, I'm not sure, at least at $1 that they're not feeling like they're committed.
Right, you can cancel that anytime.
Exactly.
So, do we want to? I know this may seem kind of silly to some people, but do we want to come up with a little graphic that's like a meme that we all agree we're going to post it on the website, and we all post it on our Facebook pages, and maybe people would share it? Is that too cheesy, or what? I'm just trying to think of some ideas.
Yeah, I wouldn't leave anything out. That's one of the things to like capture under like a marketing focus, and get to it when you can. All avenues, all sources, but in what order?
I'm being selfish. I'm trying to think of some things I can do this coming week, because I get to where I just want to see something done, even if it's wrong.
So possible meme at a future date. That
right.
Correct?
Well, I may do something one evening and post it on the website for y'all to look at and say, yeah,
right.
That sucks, or whatever.
Future could be an hour after tonight, or it could be 3 weeks or 3 months from now.
But the nice thing, that's funny, because the nice thing about the forum is that we can have 2 or 3 little categories that are like ongoing issues that we can post there, and we don't have to worry about them scrolling down, the bottom of the page or whatever. So, okay, so we've been going an hour and a half, and statistics tell us that people only watch a few minutes. So.
Right.
So,
we've lost a couple analysts.
Yeah, I want to thank you guys, honestly, for coming, because it makes a huge difference. It really does, and I appreciate it, because I've had a lot of people tell me that and I'm not going to mention names, but they basically told me this past week if they thought it was a good idea, they would have already done it. And for me, that's kind of frustrating. And that's mainly dealing with big YouTubers. So I kind of feel like we're on our own to a certain extent, unless somebody just feels led to help us.
Would you mind if I just do a little review of what I think we've decided tonight?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I have it correct.
I think we lost Dana.
It's an hour from now or at some other date. The other was creating a private chat area on the website so we can discuss things, whether they be individuals or the entire team or the entire site.
Now, because you kind of went out on us there for a second, we're talking about a forum.
Yes.
Not just like a chat window.
I'm sorry. Yes. I meant.
Yeah.
Right. I typed in chat, but I meant forum.
Okay. I just want, and that's going to be a members only thing.
Right.
Okay.
Private forum.
Okay.
And then I'm a little confused on, yes, we did review the goals, the immediate goals of the poll results tonight, but obviously continuing growth of the membership, that's an ongoing thing from beginning till forever. And we talked about silencers, but I'm not sure, I'm a little confused on where we ended up on the immediate goals portion of the discussion.
I don't think we developed a particular focus as far as
Okay, so
I think that's going to be part of the ongoing thing, right?
okay, so as far as immediate goals, that's an ongoing topic or goal.
And I think we would probably end up developing that on the forum, right?
Yes, exactly.
Right, and then we would report that on this in our hangout. What we thought our results, the consensus was, and then we would take, if anybody else had ideas.
As far as broad strokes, did I miss anything?
Well, like I said, you kind of cut out a little bit when you first started, so I don't know what you said first.
Well, I mentioned about the meme that you had mentioned.
Okay, that's what we missed then.
And then the creating a private forum area on the website, and then the things that we had already accomplished, which I had mentioned earlier, and then the other new item, which is still an ongoing thing, is our initial goals, which is an ongoing, it's not tabled, but it's still active to be further, hopefully.
And do we want to make those our first 3 or 4 categories on the forum, or do we want to just keep it all in the same room? Or do we want to play it by ear? In other words,
let's just play it by ear and let it unfold.
Okay.
I mean, if our members are going to be engaged, we'll let the membership drive it.
There you go.
And I'd like to make, a couple of people, 2 or 3 people, what do you call the administrators on forums? Moderators?
Moderators.
Like Warthog if you want to, and Quark and Dano and whoever else wants to be moderators, then you can help, maybe that's a role that you all can take on if you want to.
I have no problem with that.
Nor do I.
I like the band hammer.
Okay, then and let's just leave it. I don't want people to feel like they're hogtied. If you feel led to do something on the fly, and it's funny because this is what happened to Dana and I this past week. I won't go into details, but anyway, I think we should give people the leeway to do things on the fly, and then if we'll discuss it, and then I don't want people to feel hogtied. In other words, you can do this or you can't do that. If Warthog feels like he needs to create a category in the forum, just do it, and we'll let it flow. I don't want to.
But we also, as far as the private aspect, we also have to have the ability to don't take a question as anything more than a question.
True. Exactly.
I mean, and since it is private, I mean, there should be no harm, no foul.
Right.
Because sometimes it's just a simple misunderstanding of, like, you thought I meant left, but I said right, sort of a thing.
Right. We're good.
Okay.
I hope.
Well, I am. Once again, I'm glad to see the effort, Tony. I admire the way you're not letting the distractors, throw you off track.
It wouldn't work without you guys coming. I mean, I could sit up here and blow smoke all I wanted to. It wouldn't do it any good, So that's why I'm saying I appreciate you all. So.
Tony, do you want me to, once the forum is up there, if it's up before our next meeting, do you want me to post some of the things that were accomplished and things that are on the table for our next meeting in that forum?
I think we need like
okay.
What would you call it, like an agenda category or something?
Yeah.
Where we
board meeting notes or something.
Yeah, something like that. And that.
I think a lot of the forum topics will get to a point where they have to be discussed, and that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And then if somebody misses a meeting or whatever, they can just hopefully look there and say, okay, they talked about this.
Exactly.
You know, such and such items have been done.
You know, it's funny because I actually have some time tomorrow because of the holidays. Work's kind of slow. I mean, you know, projects, subs are not really working that much. So tomorrow I could probably get the forum up, and I'll send out a message to you guys.
Okay.
And it's up, and you all can, if you want to start to develop your categories. What are they called? They don't call them categories. What do you call them in the forums?
Subforums.
Okay.
Or subcategories.
Yeah.
So they are, okay. So,
Or groups. It depends on what you're doing. So
Sometimes there'll be they call it a general discussion area.
you got general discussion, and then laws, and then under the laws, you do partial laws, etc. There.
well, and I'll go ahead and set the permissions up so you all can do whatever you want to do in there. So, okay, well, I'm going to cut it off here. Anybody wants to hang around for a minute, that's fine, but I think for the purposes of our video on YouTube, we'll cut it off here. So I want to thank everybody for coming. And I'm sorry I didn't address any comments of those people watching. I'm bad about that. Note for future board meetings is that we must look at the YouTube side at least once or twice. So,
Also
anyway,
go channels.
thanks everybody. I really appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.